Good afternoon, friends. Friends of beautiful faces going places. This is Amita Ghosh, and I am going to give you about 9 tips today on how to survive, flourish, and do well in your romantic relationships, even in these trying times. So, since I only have half an hour, I'm going to speak very sort of succinctly and try to keep it short. But I would love for your comments. If you have any questions that you would like me to answer, please leave a question down below, and I will, try to see if I can answer those questions for you. So, um, why am I talking about relationship? Well, I have been a relationship expert, a relationship counselor, and coach for the last 20 plus years. So I've also done a lot of advanced training in that area. So I can give you some tips on it. We know that attraction, there are different reasons people get attracted to each other. And I'm going to go through them very quickly, but just to kind of touch base on them. Location is a very, very important factor. We didn't think so, or we didn't know that before, but research has shown that location is a huge factor in who gets to meet who and who couples up with who. However, that being said, now we have online dating, and so people are a little bit more able to meet each other, even across, not just across town, but also across cities and countries. I know of at least 2 people that have relationships across continents, so it's possible. However, what we know is that in general, it's easier when people are in the same general area. And that's because they meet each other, they meet each other's friends, and that's how things happen. Love is truly blind. People, when they first fall in love, tend to not see the negatives in each other. And we will go into that a little bit more in a few minutes. But yes, when we first fall in love, we think our desire, our object of our desire is absolutely perfect. There's nothing wrong with them. How could I be this lucky? The next thing is reciprocity is very important. We fall in love with people because of how they treat us. So, when people treat us well, we want to treat them well as well. So it's a reciprocity thing where we like to be treated well and we also treat others well, and that makes us fall in love. The last thing is similarity is important. So we know that people get attracted to each other when they are somewhat different. So the theory behind that is that we are attracted to those qualities in somebody, in a romantic partner, that we would like to have. So if you are a super extrovert, secretly you may be craving some alone time and maybe wishing that you were able to be happy in some alone time. And so you get attracted to somebody who is introverted and likes spending time alone. However, what research has shown is that that does not always work out so well. So, and we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So, how do we know that we are in a situation in our relationship that is difficult? Well, right now with COVID-19, the coronavirus, and all of us being locked down, it is becoming more and more clear to many couples, regardless of whether they're married or not, if they're living together or if they see each other more often, it's becoming evident that there may be certain personality traits or choices or values or whatever our partners have that we are not real fond of. So I just read this somewhere that Kelly Clarkson from American Idol is getting divorced, and she apparently quoted coronavirus as one of the reasons that now I know that I don't really like my spouse that much. So I don't want that to happen to you guys. So because of that, I am going to give you some tips. So how do we know that we are in a relationship that is not working out so well for us right now? First thing indicator is lack of libido. So you are not wanting to be intimate with your partner. Now, for women of a certain age, that may be related to hormonal stuff, but let's say that aside, that's not what we're talking about here. We are just talking about libido. So one of the indications that the relationship is challenging or that you're not terribly thrilled with where things are right now is lack of libido. The next thing is lashing out at each other. You often find that when people are in close proximity to each other for a long time, they start to get irritable or like irritated with each other, and they are starting to lash out at each other. Emotionally unavailable. So you might find that you are shutting your partner out, or your partner is shutting you out. They're just not there for you. They don't want to listen. They don't want to answer. They're just emotionally not present for you. That you may be out of sync with each other, that, however you're feeling, your partner is feeling very different. If you are happy one day, your partner is sad that day. So you're not in sync with each other. Increased anxiety. You could also experience increased anxiety in your life in general or in your relationship. So anybody who wants to have a question, please ask me a question right now, okay? And so one of the ways that I'm going to go into a little bit more details that I told you guys I would about, why is similarity important? So what tends to happen in relationships is that we are excited and we are attracted to people who have something different. Thanks, beautiful faces going places. Tips on, yes, COVID-19. Yes, happy home. So what we want to do is we want to talk about, so people may have this idea that, this person is so exciting, they're so different from me. However, when we first start, meeting each other and discovering each other, those things might be exciting. However, the same things that seem exciting in the beginning can turn into sources of irritation and annoyance. Now imagine that you are in lockdown with this person, and every time you look at them and you see them saying or doing something that is not how you would be, our tendency as human beings is to say that's wrong. So, we look at our partners who have different qualities or different values or different ideas than us, and we start seeing that as wrong. One of the other things that we see in relationships that have problems are the four horsemen. The four horsemen are considered the four horsemen of doom and gloom in a relationship. And these are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So if you find that in your relationship, you are starting to become more critical of your partner, or your partner is becoming critical of you. So, maybe you are attacking each other's characters. Maybe you're using terms like you always do this or you never do that. So you might have also situations where you are using a lot of you statements. So this is where you do this, you don't do that, you didn't do that, that kind of stuff. We know it comes from a place of criticism. And it could be you doing it, it could be your partner doing it. But if you start picking that up, just sort of, put that's a red flag. So you think about it and say, okay, so we're getting critical of each other, and what do we do about that? And we'll talk about that in a second. The next thing is contempt. You can also find that you're becoming contemptful, or sort of putting each other down, or you're doing some eye rolling, or you might be acting or thinking that you are better than your partner. You could be mocking them. It might even be under the guise of being funny, but you are doing those things, and that would indicate that you are thinking that you are better than your partner, or your partner thinks that of you. defensiveness. So defensiveness is where you're feeling like you are the victim, you know. Why am I being put on the spot? Why are you asking this of me? Why are you blaming me for these things? So you don't want to take responsibility for what's going on. You feel like, somebody did something, your partner did something, and that's why you are acting the way you're acting. Also, stonewalling. So, stonewalling is where you are just sort of shutting down and you are not talking about your problems, your issues. Maybe you're avoiding your spouse or partner. You're going into the other room. You are acting like you're busy, or that you don't have anything to say to some, in an issue or in a discussion. So the four horsemen that I want you to keep in mind are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So what do we do? Well, when you notice that any of those four things are coming up in your relationship, there are antidotes to them. So if you have criticism come up, if you are the one who's being critical, you find yourself, well, of course, the first thing you have to do is be mindful enough to catch that you are doing that this is something that's going on for you and you are the one who's doing it. It takes a lot of courage to admit that. It takes some presence of mind to see it. But once you have noticed that you're doing it and that, you are courageously admitting that that's something you've done, the next thing to do is make it right. And when I say make it right, it's about taking responsibility. So you find that you have been critical of your spouse or partner. And by making it right, you say, that just half an hour ago, I said, you are doing blah, 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 or you always do this, or you never do that. Or, I've said something about you that is, a criticism of who you are as a person. And I am sorry because that's not how I feel. I would really like to take that back, and I want to take responsibility for this because I think I've been a little irritable lately, and I think it has something to do with being locked up in the house, not feeling like we have the freedom to go anywhere. So I apologize, for snapping at you or for judging you or being critical of you. So what we say there is you start making some I statements. You talk about what you're feeling instead of what your partner has said or done. So instead of describing their behavior as the primary thing, you say, when you said that, I reacted to it in this way. So really putting the responsibility in your hands. The next thing is contempt. So you want to build a culture of appreciation and gratitude in your family and your relationship. So what does that mean? It means that no matter what is going on, the more we focus our attention on something, the more that grows. So I like to use the example of, if you water a bed of flowers, those will grow. But if you water an area where you have weeds all the time, well, those will grow. So what are you watering? You want to be watering your positivity. You want to be watering and nourishing the things that work in your relationship. You want to be nourishing and nurturing your spouse's positive qualities. So yeah, they may have done 5 things that you were annoyed by today, but if you pick up one thing that they did well and really kind of focus your attention on that, 2 things happen. One is it shifts your own mental state from the negative to the positive. And 2 is it makes your partner feel a little happier, and happier people are easier to be around. So you want to focus on the positive, and instead of really focusing on the negative and what's not working. And every morning, if you could think of one thing that your partner does well and just, contemplate on that for the rest of the day, bring it up in your mind. He is very thoughtful about filling gas in my trunk every time he goes out. So you just think about that, and that makes you feel more positive about your relationship. Defensiveness. So if you start to notice defensiveness in your relationship, you want to take responsibility. You can only do that for yourself. You cannot do that for your partner. So you just focus on, what is it that I did, or when did I get defensive? And take responsibility for that and see that you are making it right, like I said earlier. The last horseman is the stonewalling. So stonewalling is where people tend to shut down in a difficult discussion. When they are under stress, they tend to shut down. And that happens because people are physiologically aroused, which is they are feeling so overwhelmed that they don't have the emotional resources to deal with the situation. So they tend to shut down. And people who go into that stonewalling mode might just stop a discussion. They just might become very quiet. They might walk out of the room. They might say they're busy. They can't talk about it right now. So, and that's because of that physiological overstimulation or discomfort that they're feeling. And what you need to do in that situation is recognize it, of course, and then find ways to self-soothe. So that could be that you go to the restroom and take a few deep breaths. You go for a quick walk, but you need to let your partner know that, right now I'm feeling very overwhelmed and I don't want to continue talking, but I'll be back in half an hour. So the general rule is no less than half an hour and no more than 24 hours. So if you need to take a break, do some deep breathing, relax, distract yourself, not take a break and just keep mulling over what happened, but really take a break, a mental break, an emotional break. And then you come back when you feel like you're calmer. So those are some things I've shared. I do want to ask you guys, if you have any questions, please put down your questions over here and I will try to answer them. Then finally, I want to say that the nine other things that I wanted to mention here are get to know each other, get to know your partner on a deeper level. What does that mean? Well, for many couples who have been married for 10, 15, 20 plus years, you met at a time where your lives were a little bit simpler. You possibly didn't have kids. You were probably just coming out of college. You had a lot of energy and you had your own interests and you shared those things with each other and you got to know each other. Well, through marriage and through the everyday demands of life, of raising kids, having a job, following and working on your career path and all of those things, we tend to kind of drift away and not know each other as well as we thought we did. So it would be a really good practice to keep asking each other questions. What's important to you today? Whatever was important to you maybe 15 years ago may not be that important anymore. So what's changed for you? Getting to know your partner at a deeper level builds friendships, and friendships build positivity. So that's one thing. Number two is check in with each other daily. You want to have, even if it's just half an hour, you want to have uninterrupted half an hour where you say, hey, how was your day? And you allow each other uninterrupted time to maybe complain about something, not about each other, but about something going on at work. Oh, I was so frustrated. I went to the grocery store and I thought I was going to be in and out and I was stuck there for 45 minutes because of whatever was going on. So give each other that time to connect with each other and also to be able to vent without feeling the need to have to fix the other person's problem. Try to have some time during the day where you guys are not engaging with each other while you're staring at your screens. That could be your phone, that could be your iPad, that could be your computer. So give each other uninterrupted and undivided attention. Again, it doesn't matter how long as you do it, as long as you make each other feel like they are the priority. Have a weekly date or a time scheduled. So I want to emphasize the word schedule. I'm just keeping an eye on the time here. So you want to schedule that time because it's important. Otherwise, other things get in the way, and you often find that you're not doing what's important to you. So schedule a time with each other because that is important. You want to make the ordinary extraordinary. So what do I mean by that? You may be having dinner every day, but why not make one day a special event? Just light some candles, maybe play some music, maybe order out, get some food delivered through DoorDash or Uber Eats or something, and make it an event, make it special. And if you still have children at home, you can either have them eat separately so you have some couple time, or if you have older children and you want to involve them, that's fine too. You can say, okay, let's get dressed up and make this a special thing. It's only special if we want to make it special. So do work on that. So learn something new together. And, that is a very, very important thing to do because relationships can get stagnant. We ourselves individually can become stagnant. So learning something new together, whether that is a cooking class, whether that's a new language, whether that's dancing or some kind of a art project or something like that, can bring a lot of excitement and fun into your relationship. So look into that and see what you could be doing. You also want to remember like some of the things you did before as a couple that you thought were fun and enjoyable. Granted, right now with the social distancing, we can't do a lot, but I can't imagine that there's nothing that you can do. You could go for walks in the park and still keep the 6 feet between your group and another group. You could, go to spend the weekend at a state park. You could go kayaking, and you can still do a lot of these things even with the social distancing situation going on. So think about things that you did in the past that were fun and see if you can do them again. Laugh together, get passionate together. So by passion play, what I mean is that, you don't have to, when you are engaging in anything that's intimate, it doesn't always have to lead to sex. So you can be playing with each other in a sensual manner that doesn't have to be intercourse. So I would suggest that you be silly, take chances, play. Play is very, very important in any relationships, not just with children. So bring some play into your intimacy and your marriage or your relationship. And just finally, I want to say that remember that you guys are a team. You married each other, you chose each other, you decided to be a couple because you think of each other as a team. You are together in this. So if you are together in this, then you aren't against each other. So no matter what happens or however your partner may be coming across to you, remind yourself that they are not your enemy, that you guys are in this together, and that maybe sometimes it would be difficult to tell because you are stressed and you are taking it out on each other, but ultimately you are not against each other, and you want to keep that in mind, that anything happens to your partner also happens to you. Your partner loses a job, it affects you. Your partner gets ill, it affects you. Your partner gets a promotion, that affects you. So you guys are a team. Anything happens to you, it affects your partner. So as a team, What do we want to do? Do we want to tear each other down because we are in a bad mood today? Or do you want to keep building each other up? Even if you are not feeling the best today, maybe building your partner up would actually change things for yourself as well. So those are my 9 tips. I want to just mention them again. I just want to go over these things quickly so we understand. So the 4 horsemen that you want to keep an eye on in a relationship are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And in a relationship, it's not, it will come up. We are human beings and these things will come up, and that's okay, as long as that's not the norm for your relationship and that's not the only thing that, or the only way you communicate with each other. Now, if you notice that coming up in your relationship, instead of pointing it out to your partner, just see it in yourself and say, is this happening for me? Am I doing that? Because we are only responsible for what comes out of our mouths. So our mouths, our behavior. So look at yourself and say, am I doing this? And if you are doing it, then what can I do differently? Again, for criticism, you want to make sure that you're using more I statements and not you statements. For contempt, you want to make sure that you are building a culture of appreciation and gratitude. For defensiveness, you're taking responsibility for whatever is going on, that it's not your partner who's making you feel that way. It's something within you that makes you feel that way. And usually when we get defensive, if you are honest with yourself and if you are, paying attention and look a little bit below the surface, what you'll find is that most of the times when we are defensive, it's something that we want to see changed in our own self. And when somebody says or does something and it sort of highlights that quality in us, we become defensive. So take responsibility for that and say, this is my thing and I need to fix it. Stonewalling, that is where you need to calm yourself down. So take time out if you need to. The other 9 things is get to know each other on a deeper level. Don't just assume that because you've been married 20 years, you do know each other. Check in with each other daily. Spend some screen-free time with each other. Schedule a date with each other. Make the ordinary everyday things special. And another way to do that is to imagine that you will never do something again. So if you think, I know it sounds morbid, but if you want to make a dinner, you feel special, just imagine that you will not be having dinner with your spouse or partner ever again, or at least for another 6 months. Okay, they're going to be going away and this is something that I'm going to do after a long, long time. So I really want to soak it all in. So if you have that kind of a mindset, it allows you to enjoy the situation even more and make it feel special. Learn something new together. It keeps the excitement going. Remember things you did in the past that you had fun with and try to do those things again. Have some, fun in your intimacy. And then remember that you guys are a team. So that's all I have for you guys today. And this is Amita Ghosh from Resolve Counseling and Consulting. And I was giving you some tips to make your relationships flourish, thrive, do really well, even in the stressful time of COVID-19. So, and if you want to get in touch with me, please feel free to call me. I am the only one who answers my phone, and it is 859-391-1255. That's 859-391-1255. And my email is resolve, RESOLVE, counseling, COUNSELING @gmail.com. You can also find my website at consultamita.com. And I would love to be able to help you. So currently I am seeing everyone online. So it's all virtual, medical set up. It's a HIPAA compliant platform that I use, so your information is going to be secure. And eventually, when things open up and ease up, my office, my physical office location is in Fort Thomas, Kentucky, which is actually fairly close to Cincinnati. So in a way, it's actually easier to get to Fort Thomas than some other parts of Cincinnati. So again, this is Amita Ghosh giving you some tips on 9 tips on how to make your relationships flourish during trying times. Thank you so much for being part of this presentation and listening to me. And I hope to be able to help you someday. Well, take care. Bye-bye.